Good evening and welcome to Sunset News this Tuesday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather and sports. I am Diana Master. Let's get into the news tonight. The arrival of the cruise liner Mein Schiff 6 at Walvis Bay on Sunday highlighted both the growing potential of Namibia's cruise tourism sector and the need to streamline visa on-arrival procedures for international visitors. The vessel arrived carrying approximately 2,500 passengers, about 50% of whom disembarked to explore attractions across the Erongo region through organized excursions and independent travel arrangements. Various government officials were in Walvis Bay over the past weekend, including the Deputy Minister of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, Ansel Marungu, the Executive Director of the Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security, as well as Namibia Tourism Board officials and tourism stakeholders as part of the NTB's Visitor Experience Assessment Program. The program began with a Sandwich Harbour excursion on Saturday, followed by stakeholder engagement and concluded on board the Mein Schiff 6 cruise liner. Speaking on board, TUI Cruises Senior Shore Operations Manager Timo Caden said passengers were excited to visit Namibia, with between 60% and 80% typically participating in excursions offered through local tour operators. Caden, however, noted challenges experienced with Namibia's online visa application system before the vessel's arrival. According to him, the cruise line had encouraged passengers to apply for visas before boarding, but technical difficulties prevented some travelers from completing the process. Caden said future improvements to the visa process would contribute to a smoother visitor experience and encourage tourists to return to Namibia. Deputy Minister of Environment, Forestry and Tourism Ansel Marungu, who joined officials on board to observe the processing of passengers, said the arrival of thousands of cruise tourists represented a significant opportunity for the country's economy. The Executive Director of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security, Daniel Nyidunwa, acknowledged that delays in visa processing could reduce the amount of time visitors spend ashore. He called for improved coordination between stakeholders to ensure faster processing of arriving passengers and to maximize the benefits of cruise tourism. Nyidunwa said most passengers had successfully obtained visas before arriving in Namibia, with only a small group requiring assistance on arrival. He confirmed that approximately 130 passengers had been unable to secure visas online, partly due to technical issues with the electronic visa system. In our next story, the Roads Authority, in collaboration with the Transport Ministry and other stakeholders, began installing speed humps along sections of the B1 Western Bypass and A1 road highways last week as part of efforts to reduce pedestrian-related crashes and fatalities. In a statement issued on Tuesday, the authority confirmed that works commenced on the 5th of June between the Independence Avenue interchange near Katutura Hospital and the La France interchange on the B1 Western Bypass. Similar measures were implemented on the A1 road between Prosperita and the Vinter Country Club and Resort. According to the RA, the intervention followed an increase in pedestrian-related crashes, some of which resulted in fatalities. The RA added that traffic management measures, including lane closures, warning signage, and traffic accommodation arrangements, were put in place to minimize disruptions and protect road users and construction personnel. However, the decision drew mixed reactions from motorists and road users, many of whom questioned whether speed humps are suitable for highways that are designed to move traffic efficiently. Some motorists warned that the intervention would worsen congestion during peak hours, while others raised concerns about potential vehicle damage and dangerous driving behavior around the newly installed humps. An online petition launched in response to the project argued that speed humps were not an appropriate solution for the highways. The petition called for pedestrian bridges instead, saying dedicated crossing infrastructure would improve safety without disrupting traffic flow. Transport Minister Veiko Nkundi, however, defended the decision, arguing that speeding and reckless driving have contributed to crashes in the affected areas. We installed signs that the road condition is going to change. We're going to put up speed humps. Drivers start driving 120 now, 60, 40, 30 before we reach the speed camera, he said. Nkundi also referred to an incident in which a vehicle reportedly collided from behind with another as traffic slowed near a speed hump. In our next story, developers behind a proposed 220 million Namibian dollar boutique hotel on Swakopmund's historic Earth 989 say a prolonged approval battle with the National Heritage Council is placing the former municipal building and post office at risk, warning that continued delays could accelerate its deterioration. The issue was raised again at the Swakopmund Residents Association annual general meeting last week, where project shareholder Quinton Simon said the development remains stalled despite multiple submissions, consultations and appeals over nearly 2 years. Simon said the company submitted an appeal to the minister in January after an earlier rejection by the Heritage Council, but has yet to receive a formal response. He said the developers were subsequently encouraged to re-engage with the council through a fresh consultation process, including public participation and technical presentations on how the historic facade would be preserved. 6 months later, we're sitting with exactly the same situation, Simon was quoted as saying. Simon said the developers met Heritage Council representatives on several occasions, including a face-to-face meeting earlier this year, during which they outlined plans to retain the building's historic street-facing facade. He said this approach was detailed in multiple submissions and presentations. Simon argued that private redevelopment may be the only realistic way to preserve buildings of this nature. In correspondence with the Swakopmund municipality, Simon reported that a window had recently allegedly fallen from its frame onto a public sidewalk due to the building's condition. The developers maintain that extensive internal alterations are required to meet modern fire, health and safety standards and make the property suitable for hospitality use. Project investor Rakat Darmesh previously told Namibian Sun that the building's heritage value was the primary reason for acquiring it. The National Heritage Council, however, remains opposed to the current proposal. Speaking to the Namibian Sun on Monday, Built Heritage Officer Jurgen Kuhanga said the council's objection centers on the extent of demolition proposed within the structure. The developers reject that the characterization, saying they have never denied that most of the interior would be removed and have consistently stated that the only facade would remain. Kuhanga said the council's position is that redevelopment should incorporate substantially more of the existing structure. According to Kuhanga, the issue extends beyond Earth 989 itself. We want to set precedent for this because what we do now is set precedent to other developers to demolish buildings. He noted that the former municipal building carries an A98 grading, one of the highest heritage classifications in Namibia. The project has been referred to as the Atlantics Hotel during the planning process, although the developers say this is only a working title and not necessarily the final name of the hotel. And now closing off our top stories, and Sun Energy says all fuel stations it supplies across Namibia have fuel, except those operated by retailers who requested credit facilities or refused to buy from the company. The response follows allegations by the Namibian Fuel and Franchise Association, FAFA, that Nissan failed to honor supply commitments to some retailers who had paid in advance. Nissan officially assumed control of the sites on the 27th of May following transactions approved under conditions imposed by the Namibian Competition Commission, NACC. The company immediately shifted retailers from the traditional load-over-load credit model previously used by Vivo Energy and Engine to an upfront payment system. On the 2nd of June, Nissan introduced a Bring the Cash incentive, offering retailers a 50-cent per litre rebate on full truckload orders of 40,000 litres paid for 24 hours in advance. However, a formal demand letter issued by FAFA on the 4th of June and copied to Energy Minister Modesta Samutse and senior officials at the NACC alleged that several retailers borrowed money from commercial banks to make upfront fuel payments, only to face delayed or failed deliveries. Nissan's managing director Jean-Blaise Olomo told Namibian Sun on Monday that FAFA was spreading lies about the company. Olomo challenged the Fuel Association to come forward and be specific about the retailers who are complaining about not receiving fuel. He added that around 20 retailers have requested that the program be extended for 2 months. He suggested that some of the criticism directed at Nissan is fueled by unhappy competitors that claim Nissan Energies won the bid to acquire 52 engine and Shell-branded fuel service stations across Namibia from Vivo Energy, he said. Olomo also engaged in a heated WhatsApp exchange with Fuel Association chairperson Michael Ludeke over Fafa's accusations. In one message sent to Ludeke and seen by Namibian Sun, Olomo accused the Fuel Association of unfairly targeting Nissan while remaining silent when other fuel companies experience supply disruptions. And that brings us to the end of our top stories. Right after the break, we bring you our Community Talk segment.
From the heart of the continent to its farthest horizons, Africa awakens with stories that shape our world. This is Africa Good Morning, your window into the pulse of a dynamic continent. I'm Ashwin Berry, here to deliver the latest news, sharp insights, and the vibrant spirit of Africa. Every weekday, we dive into the headlines, uncover untold stories, and spotlight the people driving change. Plus, stay ahead with daily weather forecasts and economic updates to navigate your week with confidence. With direct coverage from our correspondents on the ground, we bring you in-depth access to Africa's beating heart. Mondays, Mike Situla reports from Zambia.
Africa Good Morning.
Tuesdays, Talent Gore covers Zimbabwe.
Africa.
Wednesdays, Rorisang Mokojwe brings Botswana's news. Dumela, Rorisang.
Thank you very much, Ashwin, for having me right here on Africa Good Morning. It is always a pleasure to be here with you all.
Thursdays, Ari Hogarth tackles South Africa.
Yes, very good morning, Ashwin and Aina. Yes, a good atmosphere.
And Fridays, we focus on Namibia's bold narratives. From thriving cities to rugged plains, our team is there, capturing the rhythm of a continent on the rise. Africa Good Morning is your essential start. News, weather, economics, and more.
Tonight in our Community Talk segment, the Acting Director of Namibia Library and Archive Service, Namutenya Hamwala, delivered the keynote speech on behalf of the Executive Director of the Ministry of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sports, Arts and Culture, Bumba Erastus Haitengela, during the opening ceremony of the International Archives Week conference at the University of Namibia main campus today. She stated that the gathering was not just to celebrate collections of documents, photographs, recordings, and records, but rather to celebrate the stories, identities, achievements, struggles, and aspirations of people and communities that archives safeguard for present and future generations. Let's take a look.
The International Archives Week has been celebrated from the 8th to 12th June. It's a global celebration that recognizes the vital role archives play in preserving our collective memory, promoting accountability, supporting research, and strengthening societies. Today, we gather not just to celebrate collections of documents, photographs, records, and recordings. We are here to celebrate the stories, identities, achievements, struggles, and aspirations of people and communities that archives safeguards for present and future generations. Because of the work we do as information practitioners, the Namibian people are honoring famous leaders in the history of Namibia. The likes of Hendrik Witbooi, Chief Hosea Kutako, Chief Samuel Maharero, King Mantumiande Mfayo, and Chief Gao Justus Gabriel. If it wasn't for the archives and the information officers, some of the fallen heroes would have been forgotten today. Some of the disputes on land ownership would have not been solved, and some of the architectural designs would have been lost forever. You can agree with me that archives are indeed the memory of the nations. They preserve evidence of who we are, where we have come from and how we evolved over time. And in addition, archives preserve evidence of government actions. They document the experiences of communities and safeguard the historical records for the future generations.
And now getting straight into our economic news, Works and Transport Minister Veku Nkundi has confirmed that a feasibility study for a proposed new national airline has been completed and is now under review, even as key details remain undisclosed. He confirmed that government had budgeted about 20 million Namibian dollars for the feasibility study, of which less than 4% was spent. Nkundi told Parliament last week that sensitive information cannot yet be made public due to the strategic nature of the aviation sector amid growing scrutiny over transparency, costs and governance. The study, he said, was carried out by an interministerial team of experts during the current financial year and is now under review. However, he declined to disclose the consultants involved, comparative analysis with previous national carrier reports, or detailed findings, arguing that aviation remains a highly competitive and sensitive industry. The proposed national airline project, referred to as Namibia Air, is being positioned as a successor national carrier following the collapse of Air Namibia back in 2020 and its subsequent liquidation. In a separate briefing reported 6 months ago, Nkundi confirmed that the planned airline will prioritize hiring qualified former Air Namibia employees, but only on a merit basis. He stressed that the process would not amount to automatic re-employment of former staff, but rather competitive selection aligned with international aviation standards. Candidates must fit the role in terms of skills, ethics, attitude and qualifications, Nkundi said. Air Namibia was grounded in March 2020 and placed under provisional liquidation in February 2021 following court proceedings initiated by creditors, including the Namibia Airports Company. More than 600 employees lost their jobs in the process, with severance payments and broader socio-economic fallout continuing to draw public attention years later. In our next story, Rundu's development ambitions are under increasing pressure due to 160 million Namibian dollars in unpaid municipal debt owed by large public and private institutions. The council warned that the arrears are crippling service delivery, delaying infrastructure maintenance and threatening key development projects across the town. Rundu Town Council spokesperson Benjamin Makai said the local authority is struggling to fulfill its mandate as millions of dollars remain outstanding on municipal accounts. The debt is affecting the operations of the council immensely and negatively, he told Network Media Hub. He urged debtors to recognize the critical role they play in the town's development, stressing that businesses and institutions should be viewed as partners in building Rundu rather than adversaries. In an effort to improve revenue collection and recover outstanding debts, the council has intensified engagement with debtors. Makai revealed that the municipality recently met with government institutions and businesses owing money. The meeting formed part of a broader strategy aimed at recovering debt without immediately resorting to punitive measures such as service disconnections. And now, let's take a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 22.03 against the British pound, 19.06 against the euro, 16.52 to the US dollar, and 2 Namibian dollars and 44 cents buys you 1 Chinese yuan. All commodities are down save for copper, which took an upturn of 0.96%, now trading at $6.33 per pound. Headlining our international news segment, Kenya and the United States have officially launched a $1.6 billion health partnership after months of legal disputes delayed its implementation. The 5-year agreement aims to strengthen disease surveillance, healthcare systems, and emergency preparedness across the country. The Kenyan and US governments have finalized plans to implement the Kenya-US Health Cooperation Partnership, ending months of uncertainty surrounding one of the country's largest health agreements. Treasury Principal Secretary Chris Kiptoo confirmed that both governments had agreed to proceed with the 5-year program valued at $1.6 billion following a series of court rulings and consultations. The announcement came after a meeting between Kiptoo and the U.S. Charge d'Affaires Susan Burns in Nairobi. The partnership faced significant legal hurdles after Kenya's High Court suspended its implementation in December 2025, citing constitutional concerns raised by petitioners. In February 2026, the United States also paused implementation, stating it would respect the ongoing judicial process. The Court of Appeal later lifted the freeze, ruling that prolonged delays could undermine essential health services and public health preparedness, effectively reopening the path for implementation. The agreement is designed to support several critical areas of Kenya's health sector. Key components include disease surveillance, outbreak response, laboratory system improvements, medical supply distribution, frontline health workforce transition, and the expansion of digital health systems. Officials say the program will help strengthen Kenya's ability to respond to future health emergencies while improving access to healthcare services nationwide. The deal has faced sustained opposition from civil society groups, legal experts, and some lawmakers. Critics argued that the agreement was negotiated without sufficient public participation or parliamentary oversight. Among the most prominent opponents was Busia Senator Okia Omtata, who questioned the transparency of the process and the executive's authority to commit the country to such a significant international arrangement without broader scrutiny. Concerns were also raised about the handling of sensitive health information. In our next story, a rapidly spreading cholera outbreak in northeastern Nigeria has killed at least 74 people and infected more than 7,800, according to the Médecins Sans Frontières. The outbreak, which began in early May in Borno State, is overwhelming health facilities as new cases continue to rise daily. Health officials have recorded nearly 8,000 suspected infections across 14 local government areas, placing additional pressure on a healthcare system already strained by years of conflict, displacement, and poor access to clean water. MSF says hundreds of patients are arriving at treatment centers every day, many suffering from severe dehydration after traveling long distances to seek care. More than 500 cases were admitted in a single day last week, the highest daily figure since the response began. And now let's take a look at the weather predictions. Walvis Bay can expect partly cloudy conditions and maximum temperatures of 23 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures of 14 degrees Celsius. Ariamsvlei is bright and sunny. Maximum temperatures will be at 22 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures will be at 10 degrees Celsius. Windhoek can expect partly cloudy conditions and maximum temperatures of 25 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures of 9 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, in Oshakati, it is quite hot. Maximum temperatures of 29 degrees are to be expected and minimum temperatures of 14 degrees Celsius. And now let's get into our sports news with Ari Goughad.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news and starting off with tennis news first. The French Open that was concluded over the weekend, both winners of the men and women's side of the draw is their first major winners. So it is Alexander Zverev of Germany. He's been 13 years a pro and it's his first major. He's number 3 in the world at the moment and he beat Flavio Cobolli of Italy in 5 sets. It was 6-1 in the 5th set. And in the women's side of the draw, it's Mira Andreeva of Russia. It's her first major as well. She's 19 years old and she beat Maja Swiatekowska of Poland by 6-3 and 6-2 to win the title. It is Swiatekowska that better her world ranking now by 93 places and she's up from 114 in the world to number 21 after playing in the final. Continuing international sports news with rugby news, and the final of the United Rugby Championship will be played on the 19th of June. That is a Friday, and that will be the Bulls that will travel to Leinster. That game will be played in Ireland, and it is after the Bulls beat Glasgow Warriors. That game was played in Edinburgh, and the winning score was 22 points to 21 for the Bulls, and they play in the final against Leinster that got the better of the Stormers by 20 points to 11 in their semi-final. On to Formula One racing news, and it's again Kimi Antonelli winning. He won his 5th consecutive Grand Prix in Formula One. He won the Monaco Grand Prix the past weekend, and in second position it was Lewis Hamilton in his Ferrari, a good performance by him. And then Isaac Hadjar of the Red Bull Honda team, he was in 3rd position. And it is on the point standing also Kimi Antonelli dominating at the moment after 5 consecutive wins. He's got 156 points at the moment, and the closest rival is Lewis Hamilton in his Ferrari on 90 points, and then George Russell in the Mercedes on 88 points. To close off today's international sports news, it is golf news. It is the US Open for women that was concluded at the Riviera Golf Course, and it is Nelly Korda of the United States. She's the winner, 2026 champion in the US Open for women. She finished on a total of 8 under par after 4 rounds, just 1 shot better than Gabby Lopez, and also it was Charlie Hull of England, also on 7 under par. Cassandra Alexander of South Africa, she was tied 40th in the tournament. She closed with a +3 round, and the total after the 4 rounds was +5. So that is a US Open golf news. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day. We'll talk international sport again tomorrow. Goodbye.
And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. I am Diana Master, and this has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.